Hey, cool. Hi, hi.
How you doing, Jason? Jason Beghe. Welcome to Sports Hip Hop with DJ Mad Max, Mad Max Radio, Live 365, iHeartRadio. We have the number one guy on television, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire. He's done it all. Monkey Shines, G.I. Jane, Californication, Reverse the Curse, The Stranger's Case. That's the brand new film. Jason,
Yeah,
welcome to the show. It's an honor. How's everything going?
it's pretty good. It's crazy. We're getting back to starting to shoot season 12 soon. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, it's a lot.
Yeah. You enjoying your
Yeah.
vacation?
I mean, I don't really vacation to tell you the truth. I think it's either I'm always on vacation or I'm never on vacation. I don't know how you look at it, but I kind of I live in my mind a lot, and I'm like focused on the show, and it's like a marathon. I'll be going from next week till the middle of April. That's heavy.
Yeah, that's
So
nonstop.
yeah, I just want to make sure that we do a good job and that I'm ready and hit the ground running.
I'll tell you that season 11 finale was something. What you did to the serial killer? Oh boy.
That's like some old Voight stuff.
Yeah, you got to bring back the cage again. I know times have changed now and become an evolved character, but that was way
Yeah,
worse than anything we've seen in the cage. So I think the cage would
that's
still
I know.
retain.
That's why I thought it was like, we saw a new Voight that we've never seen, and we saw the old Voight that we all
Exactly.
kind of missed. Yeah, that was definitely savage.
Oh yeah, to say the least. It was like something out of a
Yeah,
horror film, and you've had your part in horror films as well. One Missed Call, Monkey Shines, but we got
that's
the
right.
upcoming season right now. But I did want to touch on the season 11 finale. Just
Yeah,
what was it in that moment that you think your characters Hank Voight learned because he was going through so much. He saw Alinsky come back to him in that sighting when he was sitting there in the corner telling him that you don't get to die yet. There's more. So what do you think we're going to see as far as Hank Voight more of that we might not have seen before in this upcoming season that you can kind of speak on?
I think that one thing about Voight, he's never been an introspective kind of guy. He's very kind of interested as opposed to interesting, which is part of what makes him so intimidating. He's just like right in your stuff. And he that thing kind of shook him, I believe. And he's looking at his life and examining himself. He had started to begin to kind of look at himself, but I think that there's a new kind of light kind of shown on him, and he feels this sense of responsibility. And you brought up what Alinsky, says you don't get to die yet. I think he feels that he's got a responsibility to kind of rip off a piece of bread and get all the gravy off the plate. He's alive. Most people die. He died and came back in a sense, which is how I look at it. Which I don't know whether or not you know this, but I actually
Yeah, the
died and
coma.
came back. Yeah, and I died in the coma, and it was an interesting. It was interesting. It changed my life for sure. You know,
Yeah.
and uh, yeah, so that I think is what'll be different coming forward. But one of my favorite quotes is is Pablo Picasso. Somebody asked him, how do you plan a painting like Guernica? And he said, I paint the picture to find out what it looks like. So, I don't want to plan too much. I want to allow it to happen. And, hopefully, we'll have something that'll be worth watching.
Yeah. I'm sure it will be. It's been this far. When it's all said and done, the best TV cop of all time, no doubt about it. Growing up, who was your guy that you looked at as far as a detective or a cop show? Who was your guy that you might have drew a little bit of inspiration from, but just who you watched growing up as a kid that people now
I don't
look
know
to
if
you
I
as their
drew
guy?
inspiration from him, other than, not as a character, but maybe just the actor, perhaps. But I think my favorite cop show was Columbo, might still
Mm,
be. And I also really, really, really loved Kojak as a kid,
okay, yeah.
and Beretta. That's right. And there were so many. And then, Hill Street Blues and NYPD Blue, which were much more kind of ensemble pieces, and a lot of it was, you know, the visual of how it was shot. But even if you look at a thing like Barney Miller, you know, that's really kind of more, you know, it's like a sitcom, but it's very realistic in that most of what you do as a cop is sitting around waiting. You know, it's a lot of, you know, sitting at your desk talking to your buddies. So they all have some validity. But I gotta say, Peter Falk as Columbo. Wait, let me just do it. Yeah, that's my. You know, then again, you know, maybe it's Kojak.
Yeah.
I don't know. There you
Uh,
go.
but it's been interesting to learn about your whole life story and just knowing that Dick Wolf, I heard the whole story about him picking you for this role. Did he ever tell you kind of what it was that he saw you in, that he made the choice and saying that you're going to be Hank Voight?
Oh my God, yeah. As a matter of fact, I'll show you something. It's a funny story, but you know, I've done a lot of television shows, pretty much every TV show you can imagine. And I remember, and I'm one of those actors who never talks to his agent. Like, I don't like, hey, what's going on? Why am I not working? You know, if I just kind of leave them alone, and you know, they call me more than I call them. And I remember thinking, and I always used to watch, you know, when you turn on the TV, it was always Law and Order, and it was great. I mean, Jerry Orbach. I mean, it was just great. It's one of the great. There's a great cop show. I mean, maybe the best. And and I thought, why the hell? I mean, Dick Wolf, he's got 50 shows. They're all great. Why have I never worked with Dick Wolf? And I told my agent, I said, what's going on? And he's like, I don't know. And anyway, within probably 3 weeks, I was the guest star on this show that he had called Law and Order LA. Okay. And it was a really interesting, I'm looking for this character because this is crazy.
Oh, the Secret Service character about the underwear and all this? Yeah, I did hear about this.
Yeah. I actually have a picture of the real guy. This is him. So this dude, he was like the baddest man in the Canadian Secret Service. And like when the Queen of England came, he was responsible for her security. If she came to Canada, I mean, he was a big time guy. And he turned out he was like kind of stalking certain women, stealing their underwear. But it grew, and you know, he ended up becoming a rapist and a murderer. And this is a picture of the dude. That's the guy it was based on. Isn't that crazy?
That's unbelievable.
And I know. So, and I love the thing, like he's in these women's underwear, but it's not like, you know, it's very, yeah, these look okay. Yeah, these are pretty, yeah, I could rock this, you know. And so at any rate, I played this character, and they were trying, the show was kind of having trouble. And it was this episode that, with, you know, Skeet Ulrich was killed, and Alfred Molina became the cop from, you know, it was a big, huge change to try and reinvent the show. And I was the big bad guy. And I had some great scenes with Alfred Molina. Like we called it like, I remember there was one interrogation room day, and it was like a one-act play. And frankly, we killed it. You know, people really loved it. I don't think it didn't save the show, but we had a lot of fun doing it. And I guess Dick, I didn't know this, but he loved me. And so then Chicago Fire came along, and NBC had actually wanted me to do this other pilot.
Blacklist,
but,
right?
Well, no, this was a different one. I had done a pilot, but I died in the pilot, and they wanted to bring me back as a twin brother. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was called, I can't remember what it was called. It was a good show. Mm-hmm. The lead cop was a woman who wore a hat. I'm so bad. At any rate, yeah, no, Blacklist was another thing. They wanted to test me. But at any rate, here I am. I did Chicago Fire, I came in and I was supposed to do 3 episodes as this bad guy, Hank Voight. And I ended up doing 15, I think. And the last one was the pilot for Chicago PD.
Yeah,
And here I am.
here you are today. I mean, even the presence is felt. I'm not asking. And that scene in Chicago Fire, that's
Oh,
when you
wow. You
know.
remember? You know what's interesting? That was a cool scene. And here's a personal story for you. My parents met when they were very young, uh, 13 and 15 years old, and fell in love. And this was in Chicago. And they grew up and they were both brainiacs, went to the University of Chicago. My father went to law school and blah, blah, blah. And I used to come to Chicago when I was a kid. And I have very deep roots in Chicago. And, great grandfather and all this kind of stuff. And, but, my parents moved to New York when they were teenagers, and got married, when they were kids and had a wonderful life. And my father ended up becoming a federal judge. So they were living in DC, but my mother died. This is 13 years ago. And my father, who was the picture of health, he couldn't live without her, and he died a couple of months later. And so obviously I was spending a lot of time in DC, and I finally went back for the final internment where I lay my father into the ground, with my siblings, right next to my mother. They share one stone, which is appropriate. And that day, I left the graveyard, went back to my parents' house, grabbed my bag, and had to fly to Chicago for my first day of shooting on Chicago Fire, which was, I'm not asking.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so that was the genesis really of Hank Voight on film. And the funny thing is, I always thought, because it became this thing, and I'm kind of a guy in Chicago, not just another dude, and I always thought, my parents, since it's their hometown, they would have really gotten a kick out of it.
I think they have. I think they are.
Yeah, up there looking. Yeah,
Yeah, they
but
definitely are.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's a little personal touch. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Tell me when you got on board as an executive producer and just what comes with being in a part of that role and being on the show.
It's funny. The way I kind of operate my life is I do my job as best I can usually. Sometimes I slack, but generally I'm pretty consistent and responsible. And I have people that I try to surround myself with and allow them to do their jobs, and I stay out of it. Like I have, financial people. My business manager, I've known her since I was in high school, ninth grade. Okay, so I trust her. My investment guy I've known since camp when we were 8 years old. Okay, so and I have a lawyer that I totally trust. So the point of I let them do their job. So I basically I try to help as best I can. I'm not I wasn't a director or a producer per se, but I still helped direct, and I always helped produce because I one of my mantras is the star of the show is the show. So we always got to flow power to the thing that gives us all the opportunity. And it's easy to get like, look at me, but it's not. It's about the show. You go, you do. How can we make this better? Like it's got to be better. So that's kind of a producer mindset. So I always had that. So I haven't really changed anything. But my lawyer, in negotiating, I for some reason, so now it's official. So I guess I haven't tested the waters, but you know, people respect me because I think I respect them back, and you know, I expect people to be prepared, and they tend to be, and we have a lot of fun, but we get it done. You know, it's
So
yeah, we're no, you know, all the three shows have their own kind of spirit, and ours is it's not, I wouldn't say it's more serious, but it's I don't know, I don't know how to say it without swearing. So but we don't mess around.
yeah.
That's all. Even though we do mess around, we don't mess around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we got
Yeah.
all this other film work. Reverse the Curse. You've been friends with David Duchovny pretty much your whole life since the age of 14. You went to preparatory school together. What was
Yeah.
interesting in learning about you guys' relationship is that you were the one that persuaded him to get into acting. So can you kind of get into that a little bit about telling him to try acting?
Well, actually, before you know, I don't know. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of what started my whole acting thing was, you know, my life kind of happened to me. I never really pursued anything. It just kind of, and I, through a series of circumstances from a boyfriend of my sister's, I met this guy who turned out to be a huge fashion illustrator, very important guy in that world. And I became a model against my will. And within like a month, I was living in Italy and I was the Armani man. I could show you this thing, but I didn't know how to model, you know, and you know, and so I looked, I said, well, how do I do this, you know? And I looked at a magazine, the GQ, and I'm like, I can't do this, you know, because it was all like, you're into me, aren't you? You know, I just I couldn't do it. But I grew up on art books and things like that. And there was this one of my favorite books growing up in my parents' house was this book of photographs. It's a lovely book. You can still find it. It's not that easy to find, but it's a book of photographs called The Family of Man. And it's just real people in real situations. And I always thought, I said, now this is more interesting than that. So I said, I can't do this, you know, clenched jaw and, you know, I know you want to have sex with me, baby. Look, you know, I didn't have, you know, I was 19 years old. And so I figured I would try to make something more like The Family of Man, more like, and I became the first real person model because while I was having the picture taken, instead of, you know, look at me, I'm good looking, I was like, okay, I created a situation in my mind. Like, okay, I'm at the bus stop and I'm waiting for the bus to pick me up to go to the loony bin to visit my mother. You know, and so there would be a look on my face. At any rate, it became, everybody loved it. And that's how I became this. And they said, oh, he's a piccolo actor. And as a kid, you know, I was kind of a ham and stuff. Everybody always used, you got to be an actor, you know, and who does that? And then I just became one. So with the, you know, I don't know if I was the only thing that persuaded David, but I was like, come on, you know, I said, you should model. And he modeled with me. Now you got to do this acting. It's easy. They're going to love you. They're going to love you. They, you know, it's like a scam, you know, to me, it was just like, you know, just be yourself. And, you know, there you are. They're going to love you because of your education, which was true. And look at him. He's a monster. He's got a podcast he just started. I'm going to do coming up. I'm looking forward to it.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so David is my oldest friend that, you know, in continuous operation. Like we talk, you know, a few times a week still. And, you know, I love and admire him, you know, eternally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Californication. You guys have been collaborating for years.
Oh my God. Well, you said we were collaborating in high school,
Yeah.
you know, just having fun. You know, so he
Watching the
came to
Yankee
my
games.
school. We did. We used to watch the Yankee games on the phone.
Yeah.
And we also used to watch the Knicks. We used to watch the Knicks games and howl because we used to love to watch the Knicks versus the who was the Pistons. And you remember Bill Lambier?
Oh yeah, the center, number 40.
Yeah, he was such a mean, dirty. And I used to play. We used to do his inner monologue. I'm gonna get this guy right now. We do the whole thing and just howl and laugh, be fun.
Crazy.
Yeah, we were kids. Yeah.
But when we look at it, because you had such a interesting life story, being friends with John F. Kennedy Jr. My condolences, just losing him as a friend, and then just even your family before. I did want to give my condolences there, and then being able to hang out with Andy Warhol, that's crazy. But getting out to California, because I did hear about it, you wanted to be sent out there with a job, and that there were some tough times there with the auditions because they loved you, but they kept saying that they wanted to know where the experience was, because you didn't have enough experience at the time when you were going out there and auditioning out in LA.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, that was after 2 months. I was going out, everybody's giving me this great feedback, but they didn't give me a job. And I just said, oh, forget it. I quit. Forget, I'd give 2 months because they said I asked my agent, I said, why didn't they hire me? And he's like, oh, they're afraid you don't have any experience. I said, how am I going to get experience if they don't hire me? And he said, it's a catch-22. I said, well, forget this. I'm going back. I'll go back to New York. And he's like, oh, one more audition. And I got that First and 10 series with O.J. Simpson, which was interesting. Yeah, I mean, I knew O.J. very well. I guess we did 3 seasons of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But and it was perfect. And the name of the series in the beginning was Training Camp, which I thought was appropriate because I was supposed to get some training. So I learned some stuff, and then I booked Monkey Shines and went on to do that. And I don't know. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Monkey Shines was an interesting film, working with George A. Romero. And that's something that's interesting because when I look at George A. Romero, what he was able to do in Night of the Living Dead, he was able to reflect what's going on during that time with the civil rights movement and put that in the Night of the Living Dead. Kind of what you guys do with Chicago PD with the George Floyd incident and everything that's happened. You guys put that into your show. What did you learn working with George A. Romero?
Yeah, I learned a lot, actually. He was a brutally kind man. It was unbelievable how kind, thoughtful, soft-spoken for these deep and horrible, kind of ideas. It was anyway. I one of the things. I mean, this is early in my career, and I'm just trying to do a good job. So, and that was a lot of work being the lead in a movie, and a lot of pressure. So, I learned, how to, I started to get some discipline and, the responsibility. So yeah, I think that's in retrospect what I learned. But, again, then I was more self-involved and, oh my God, this is about me, and I think part of the key to life and maybe even acting is to understand that it's about you. It's not about me.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, that's just the beginning of getting more and more experience and, trial and error and trusting yourself and, finding your way. But, there's still a, vast room for improvement, and I'm always, trying to find a way to do it better, life and acting,
Yeah, you've done a lot because we touched on Monkey Shines, everything, Chicago PD. We're going to get into the Stranger's Case, but why did it take up until the point where you turned at the age of 50 that you finally said to yourself that you are an actor despite having done so much already?
I don't know, because I had never, like I said, my life kind of happened to me. And, I guess certainly the stereotype, and probably accurately, most actors are very ambitious and, driven to succeed and, want to be famous and, these kind of things. Like you kind of alluded to, I grew up around some of the most famous people in the world. So at a very young age, I came to an understanding that fame was not something that was necessarily to be desired. So that, and then I probably out of some, in retrospect, I think that it was, a way to kind of protect myself from getting hurt, but I didn't really allow myself to care that much, So the upside was most actors, they'll finish a job and they'll say like, oh, I'll never work again. Oh my God. Me, I'd be like, oh, good. I got some free time, got money in the bank. And I'd go and I'd live my life and I'd have fun. And I'm sure something would come along, and it always did. But I wasn't like driven to be, I got to get an Academy Award and I got to get famous. And, like, yeah, fame is an interesting thing, and Chicago PD's made me pretty damn famous. And I've come up with which is, and it's a mixed blessing for me. But, I'm still not that good at it, honestly. The way I define it is fame is what people who don't know you think of you. Mm. And it could be you're the greatest thing in the world, which isn't true, or you're the worst thing in the world, which isn't true, But, like, for instance, let's say somebody's really excited to see me, which is, I understand that's flattering and, it's gratifying that, I've made an impact and they like the show. All these are positive things that I appreciate and value, But when they go, stop the car, honk the horn, oh my God, I love you, they're not talking to me. They're talking to an idea of who I am in their head. So it's a kind of a strange experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That for me, but I probably shouldn't talk about this stuff, but so now why are we talking about this?
Oh, it was pertaining to the question of why did it take up to this point of you at
Oh,
the age of 50?
But like part of my life, mm-hmm. I was always like, like I love great actors. I admire, these, but I used to think like, who do I really admire? Like, and it was more like people like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and they were performers in a way, they spoke and they influenced people, but, there wasn't any kind of via. It was kind of like why I liked wrestling. There's no ball, it's just man. And here, I have a dream. This is what I think. It's not some script that I'm trying to express myself through this with a director. And it's, you know what I mean? It's a one-man show and it's a life, and I was more like, I was always kind of, who am I? What is my purpose in life? Like I had these kind of like burning questions, still do probably, like how do I fulfill my responsibility? Who am I? Who do I want to be? These kind of things. And so like I was just, okay, acting, it's just what I'm doing. And somehow when I was 50, it's like, what am I actually going to do when I grow up? And then I realized at 50, for some reason, and I say realized, I didn't decide, but I hadn't confronted the fact that I was doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So now I'm embracing it a little bit more. And, and I think that's allowed me to succeed, because, pretty soon after that, it was Chicago PD. And here I am, being more successful. I was always, I think, made a good living, but I didn't, there's a different level, and there's many more levels to go. But I'm blessed, and I'm not complaining.
No. You got The Stranger's Case. That's the new one out right now. I did hear about you going to overseas there at ASRock and with Brant because you're close with him. What did you learn during your experience over there teaching film that you were able to apply to this role in the film with the refugees in Syria?
Well, I mean, that's a beautiful experience in my life. And, Brant and I had been friends, respected each other kind of, but, both of us are kind of, we don't really easily open our hearts too much, completely. I would say we're both warm and generous, and you can count on us. But, I have a close circle of friends. I don't have, there's many people I love, but, I have a close, small group of like the real core. And, and Brant, I think, is somewhat similar. Um, but he invited me to go help on this. I met him. He was the little league coach. We both lived in Malibu, and his son and my son were on the same team, and he was the coach. Wow. And then we just started hanging out, talking a little, blah blah, and we giggle and have some fun, and start to talk a little bit more, blah blah. And anyway, he invited me, and we had a gas just going off, flying to Jordan. It's a long flight. And, usually you sleep, but for some reason, the two of us were up the whole time, and we just howled. And neither one of us is a big drinker. So it was like, we just kind of managed. Most people, like, they drink or take a pill, and, so I, all the way LA to Jordan, that's a long, I think we stopped in Paris. And there was some stuff that went down. Anyway, it was, but we started to get close. And then when you meet these children, these, I guess I was working with kids from about 8 to 17, maybe, yeah, about that. And it was so beautiful. They have so much, the experiences that they've had are, they're we can't even conceive of that kind of, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing, to get robbed. That's traumatic, but to have your whole country taken, and to have to walk to who knows where, and God knows what happens, and who has been brutally murdered and abused that is dear to you along the way. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah. And so, but they have this resilience, and they have this story to tell. And so it was probably, it's certainly one of the most inspiring, beautiful, rewarding, it's everybody, it's nice to give, and here's somebody who really wanted to soak up what you had, and they did a wonderful job. One of these, actually, this girl I work with, I mean, I could, just to tell her story would take this whole hour, but somebody very special to me, beautiful girl that I worked with there, extremely talented, and she got the funding to make a documentary, a major, full-on documentary about the life of children in a refugee camp.
Wow.
Yeah, and I like to think I had a little something to do with that. Here she is. Here she is, this little girl, and her story, like,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, her story is unbelievable, and like, you see how close we are.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a totally different culture, you know, and a girl or a woman like that, you don't shake their hand. You just, because you're not supposed to touch them, you know, it's highly inappropriate, you know, and we had such a deep connection. You know, as I left, I go like this, and she hugged me. Now
Wow.
that was that's something I won't forget. And I mean, what a beautiful, you know, what a beautiful human. And to be able to smile like that, beautiful girl, wonderful. Anyway, I hope she's great. I haven't seen her in a little bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's rewarding. Yeah, so Brandt, you know, he's very, very deeply involved in the refugee case. He's got or crisis all over the world, and you know, he's set up a big nonprofit, and you know, he's one of those guys who's a little bit better than the rest of us. You know, he's just a good man and super talented, and he wrote an amazing script. And you know, he wanted me to help a little with directing and play a small part, and you know, we had a spectacular time, and you know, made some very close friends along the way. Interesting. It was just an amazing opportunity. You know, a stranger's case is the strangest case is that's a heavy, heavy movie. Um, and it's winning awards now at some of these Brandt's over in Italy right now, and it won one in London just now, and I think
Congrats.
another one in Malta, and now it's in southern Italy right now. But it's an important movie. And quite good. A lot different than Reverse the Curse, which used to be, they had to change the name because it was based on David's novel that you can't say on TV. So, but that was, you know, totally different and fun. But, you know, for me, if Brandt or David asked me, you know, I don't, they always like, here, let me tell you about the role. I said, I don't have to hear, just I'm in. So those are guys that are in my little, you know, that's
Close
family.
circle.
Yeah. Three hearts, one beat.
Yeah.
There you go.
We touched on all your film work pretty much, and just the new things that you have releasing. So what's it that you have upcoming besides working on Chicago PD season 12 that you can speak on, or just things that you've reflected during your time off, that maybe a role that you would love to play that you see yourself in someday? What are some things that you have on the way, and some things that you do want to accomplish in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, you know, my one of the great pieces of good fortune that came to me was when my son, during the pandemic, he was in 8th grade, and his mom agreed to let him live with me, you know, on a trial basis. And, you know, it worked out very well. And now even his older brother's here. But he is graduating next year. And I thought this, which is my season 12. So I had thought, you know what, I'll probably leave after season 12. But actually now I feel very certain that I'd like to, you know, renew and continue. I have a lot more to do.
Wow.
And, you know, you know, I've focused on my health. I quit smoking for a year now, and you know, been getting in shape and all this stuff, and you know, and I feel ready to keep going. And so I have a lot more stories to tell. Uh, you know, there's certain people that, you know, I'm hoping will stay to do it with me, that I feel are integral. You know, everybody's important, but there are a few that I feel are integral, you know. And I think we can continue. Other than that, you know, I mean, the fact that I did 2 movies last year, you know, is that's a miracle, because usually what I do on my hiatus is this. You know, I just kick back, you know. So yeah, here we have you know, the three boys. Both my sons are in the house with me. My youngest Bear is going to graduate this year, and he's been killing it here in Chicago. And I guess he'll look for college if that's what he wants to do. I'm sure he could find a good one. He's a little monster at school, and you know, he's a very special, lovable guy. And yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Yeah, so that's enough, you know. But going forward, I you know, I'm, I guess, a little more unabashed than he is, but I've told David that I really want to do, you know, like when we did the first time we worked together was on the X-Files, and we had so much fun, you know. And he's a little bit darker than I am, you know, and he, you know, takes things a little more, you know, I'm a little, you know, and it was, you know, doing a lead in the series, it's hard work. So
Yeah.
season one, he was like, so they kind of brought me out because they knew I, you know, I was his friend and we'd have fun. And we had, I think we got in so much trouble. I think it went 2 days over
Wow.
from having, and that's a lot of money. You know, we got in trouble, but we, because we couldn't stop laughing. I mean, we just howled, peed in our pants, fall down on the floor, can't stop laughing. So we had so much fun, and it kind of continued when we worked again in Californication. We just, it's so much fun, you know. And I love being directed by David. He's very easy to be directed by. So to me, yeah, that's oh, what I want to do. I want to do a little buddy series with David. And I even have this concept. I have this idea. I don't want to spill it, you know, because, you know, I have to, but I think we can sell it and it would be fun. And I think we'd have a good time and it would be worth watching. And at any rate, I'm pretty sure we could sell this thing. And, uh, and I think it would be good. I think it'd be really good. It
Yeah.
would be funny and exciting.
I believe it. The chemistry's always there between you two.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
What's some important advice you would give to up and coming actors right now looking to break in as far as getting into acting gigs, especially now with the emergence of AI and people may feel discouraged by that, especially with the whole strike that just occurred last year? What are some important advice you would give to up and coming actors?
The same thing I give. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I always say is the best thing you can be is you. And I think that a lot of times, you know, particularly this generation or this, you know, with Instagram and all this, a lot of people get caught up in becoming. And that's a trap. You're going to become. And the way to best become is to be. You see?
Mm.
And another one is like, you know, a lot of people tend to think I think they make the mistake of leading their life by what they want to have. They get this idea, oh, I want to have $1 million and you know, this wife and whatever, these things, you know. And so they think, okay, that's what I want to have. So I'll do this and I'll be that. And that's not the recipe for happiness or success. You know, it goes backwards. It goes back to be all you. If you can just be yourself, you know, then you will naturally do, and you will naturally have. And I think that the purpose in life, I suspect, is just to continue to work on being more and more authentically yourself. And the you know, it seems it's actually harder to not be yourself, but we manage to make things difficult, you know.
True.
And and and, and I think one of the, you know, the traps. Am I giving too much advice now?
No, this is perfect.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the, you know, I think maybe this is my philosophy about things, the way I look at it. I don't know, somebody much smarter could probably say this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But I think one of the things that makes Homo sapiens such a dominant species on this planet is the fact that they have the ability to have self-reflection. They're able to examine themselves. And the problem is it's this new facility, we're just evolved, to have this. And we're kind of think we've gotten addicted to it. So people are now afflicted with self-awareness, and they're like live in their skull. They're like me. What do they think of me? I mean, like most animals aren't thinking, oh, what do the guys think? But human beings are like, what if they don't like me? And and you end up in a prison the size of your skull. And we're addicted to this thing. But when we get better at it, you look at like a bee community, like they know how to work as one. Ants and things. We humans, it's all me. It's me. Even like we have this election coming up. It's all pocketbook issues, about me and what's good for me. I'm going to vote for the guy who's good. That's not the way to survive. Like
No.
the species is not going to make it if we continue like that. You see, so we have to be, like I said, interested. Like life is here. There's so much, and you don't get the anxiety and all the stuff that's because you're not, all you got to do is be interested instead of interesting, and it's very exciting. And if you think about it, like if you really like feel your feelings instead of try to avoid them, like you have a feeling. Here's a great thing for an actor. Most people like, oh, that's a bad feeling. Let me get drunk, or I'll chase women, or whatever because I don't want to feel that. Well, why the hell wouldn't you want to feel it? It's not bad. That's your feeling. You don't create it to suffer. Maybe you could listen to it and like, what's it trying to tell you? Oh, I'm off course here. I'm violating my integrity. I'm not being me. So if you spend your life just trying to be you, it's very exciting and very challenging and engaging. You'll find you don't need to jump out of airplanes with parachutes or go to Magic Mountain. It's very exciting.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's how I try, in my best thought. But a good thing to ask yourself, because we're like faced with decisions all the time. What do I do? Should I or should and a good little thing to help you make decisions. First of all, there are no wrong decisions. Okay, maybe that would have been better this, but then you wouldn't have had this is your life. Live it, embrace it. It's great. But just a good way to help you make a decision is to try to behave in a way that you would have respect for. It's not always easy, but it's exciting. Oh, you know what? And everybody's gonna laugh at me. Well, so what? And I think sometimes magic happens when you find your way, not the way everybody else does it or what's supposed to be. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And allow somebody to be them. It's not easy, but it's cool. That's my advice.
Yeah. It was important and it was well explained. Jason, is there anything else you'd love to let your fans know? Anything else that you want to let the audience know about that we didn't discuss?
I think we're gonna have an interesting season. I hope they enjoy it. And even though I have a trouble with the fame stuff I said earlier, I have such appreciation and humility for, I feel like, NBC, Dick Wolf, they're my bosses, but my real boss are the fans. That's the boss. You know, it's for them. We make the show, and if they don't like it, then we have to move on and do something else. So I can't express how much I appreciate them, and I want to respect them and hopefully continue to entertain them or give them whatever it is that they're looking for.
You will.
Yeah.
Okay. Jason, I want to thank you for coming on the show here tonight. It's been a great honor to speak with you and just go over your life story and your film work and everything that you have going on. Thank you to your assistant to help setting this up, your talent agents, everything. You're always welcome on the show anytime.
Well, you're very kind and certainly very likable. So thank you for having me. And I don't know. I don't do a lot of talking about myself, so now I'm kind of introverted.
You got to come back whenever you have anything to promote. You always have an open invitation too.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, now I'll have to do something worth promoting. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have a good season. I'll come. You got to see this.
Yeah,
I'll come back and we'll talk about the season, either like in December for the mid-season finale or the end of the season finale. How about that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's do it. The King of Chicago is here, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Beghe, thank you again, man. And we're going to talk soon. We'll stay in touch once you wrap up, like you said, mid-season there, or even at the end of the season.
Bro, my door's open.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Max.
All right, Jason, take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. I look forward to speaking to you again.
You too. Ciao.
Bye.